Hi, my name is Shari Doherty, and I'm a lady in red, in Act 2 of my career and living my best life. My perspective on life and behaviors have been governed by who I was as a child, who I became, and who I am still striving to be. People my age are beautiful, bold, confident, and full of wisdom, and truly, the encore of the story of your life is still when the best songs are yet to be sung. My mission in this podcast is to shine the spotlight on people like me, have real conversations about reinvention stories, and inspire you to continue to follow your dreams regardless of your age. I'm doing it for Daisy. Who are you doing it for? Welcome to today's episode of the Encore Podcast. Today, I have my guest, Rob Francis, with me, who is also a realtor with Remax Finest Realty and a personal friend. Rob had a great 25-year military career before he joined the real estate industry, and I'm excited to unpack that with him. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hi, Shari. Thanks for inviting me to come here today.
Excellent. I will go back like I do with all of our guests and ask you to tell us your story. So if you can, where were you born and raised? What was your childhood like? And any highlights or lowlights that you might want to share with us?
Okay, so that's getting to be a bit of a long time ago. I was born in northern Alberta, and I then moved to a small town outside of Edmonton called New Sarepta. And that's where I grew up. My dad was a beekeeper, so I helped out on the family farm that way with me and my two brothers. So we did that right until I joined the Army out of high school. As for childhood, pretty standard growing up at that time on the prairies, on a farm. So a lot of work, nothing really outstanding. Like, it was good childhood. I enjoyed it, a lot of time outside. So which kind of set me up for a career in the Army, to be honest with you. Out of high school, after graduation, I joined the Army and I joined the Canadian Artillery. So I was an artilleryman or a gunner for 29 years.
29,
and 42 days, but who's counting? That's it in a nutshell, real quick, for the first bit. So for the Army, since I was from out west, I was posted to Chatham, New Brunswick. When I first heard of Chatham, I thought it was Chatham, Ontario.
Right.
So I ended up in the Maritimes, so it was a bit of a surprise. Turned out I loved the Maritimes.
Right.
My kids were born there. My wife is from there. My first wife was from there as well, too. Yeah, so I love the Maritimes, and I also moved to Ontario as part of my career in the Army. Kind of meandering all over the place here,
That's
aren't
okay.
I? Jumping.
That's all right. I'll ask questions.
So I got a chance to come to Kingston a couple times in the Army, which is how I ended up here. So that's like a really big, broad picture of what I did.
All right. I'm going to dig deeper into some of those questions. Okay. So were you ever deployed?
No, oddly enough, I spent a lot of time in Canada. I did all kinds of pre-training, so it was definitely a bit of a bone of contention for me, something that I wasn't happy about with it, because we spend literally a lifetime training for something, and then you don't actually get a chance to practice it. I guess in this case, if you're a nurse or a firefighter, it's a little different because you're helping someone out, and the stakes are not as high for you personally. But in the Army, if you deploy, there is always a chance, and in the artillery, there was always a chance that you could be injured or killed. I had several friends of mine that actually had life-altering injuries due to their deployments around the world.
Right.
So in that regard, I'm very lucky that I didn't deploy and didn't have to, risk my life or cause any stress to my family with a deployment. But at the same time, I was also unlucky that I didn't get a chance to practice and put into practice what I spent, my whole adult life training to do.
Right. That makes perfect sense. I understand that for sure. Where was your favorite place that you lived?
Favorite place, probably, to be honest with you, was Kingston.
Okay.
It was towards the last few years of my career where I got posted here. But, just for why it's my favorite is because of the area. It's great. You're a couple hours from 4 major cities. So basically the center of the universe, really. The town itself is gorgeous. It's nice and old. It reminds me of the Maritimes.
Yeah.
It's along the waterfront. The opportunity for my kids is fantastic. Sports, education, stuff to do in their off time. And of course, the people here are pretty nice as well, too. I seem to have run into a few nice people here in Kingston, like yourself. Yeah, so Kingston was definitely my favorite posting.
Right. Okay. So we have less lobster would be the only thing that I would give. I also really like the East Coast. I have a life saying that I don't think I've ever met anyone from the East Coast that I didn't like. And I think it's true. Everyone is nice and friendly and just down to earth and real. I really like people from the East Coast, so I get it. And so you came here, if I remember correctly, on an assignment. and then decided you were going to retire and you wanted to make this your home.
Yeah.
But you had to go back for a year.
Yeah,
It was like
so-
that weird time in between when you had to do a transition to make this permanently your home, which is interesting. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, certainly. So I was posted here in 2015, my family. We came here, it was supposed to be for a year. It turned into 3 years, which was great. Because of the rank, I retired as a chief warrant officer. You get posted fairly often. So they told me I'm going back to Gagetown. So I went back to Gagetown, New Brunswick. So I went back to New Brunswick for the year, and I was in the RSM of the artillery school in Gagetown. It was a busy year. Heather, my wife, she kept her job from Kingston, so she did it remotely before remote was cool. So she did that. And then that final year was a pretty long year with a lot of stuff that I had to deal with my job and position. So it was definitely hectic. But then we decided, we were talking about it, like, what are we going to do when I retire? Because it's getting to that age, you got to start thinking ahead, like, what's going to happen? Because I can do up to 35 years. So I was like, well, what am I going to do after this?
Right.
But Heather's work was great. Kingston was nice. And combined with that last year that I had, it seemed like the right time to retire. So we retired and we moved back to Kingston right in 2019. So before the pandemic kicked off, really. So we got in at the right time.
So how old are you at this point?
I am 51 now.
Okay. So then you were late 40s, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it would have been 47.
Okay. Perfect. And how did you decide on real estate?
So initially I was going to work as an insurance adjuster because someone I know, Terry, he's always got interesting stories, and
does, yes.
It seemed like an interesting thing. But then the pandemic kind of kicked off and, trapped at home with the kids. So I had the opportunity to do Veterans Affairs paid for education, which included real estate. And you had started doing real estate the year before, and just chatting with you, and you got out of the house, you got to meet new people, you got to see the whole area. It seemed really interesting. So I started doing my real estate license through Humber College, and I did that in about 8 months, I think. So the kids were at home studying for school, and I was at home studying real estate.
Right.
And then I got my license in October of 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, that was a banner year.
Yeah. Yeah, when the real estate
What a time to
market-
start a new business.
Yeah, when you're social distancing, you got to be aware of where you're going, wearing a mask. So yeah, it was definitely interesting.
All those COVID forms.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was fun. And so far, real estate has been excellent. I get a chance to get out. I get to go see different parts of the greater Kingston area that I wouldn't normally have seen. I get to see some very interesting homes, like that are some that are absolutely beautiful. The old ones are incredibly interesting with, how they're built, the stone foundations, beams that still have bark on them. So you get the sense of how old that home is. So real estate has been incredibly interesting. And a lot of the people I've met, despite some misconceptions about real estate agents, I'll be honest with you, they've been great. I've worked with some amazing people with other brokerages doing real estate deals, been incredibly helpful. I haven't found anyone that's been, overly slimy or anything like that. But yeah, it's been extremely interesting and very rewarding.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, we're in the same profession, but 98% of the people that are our colleagues that we're in the trenches with day in and day out are great. And we're all in it to ultimately service our community and help people in a time of change. And as long as everybody has the same spirit of accomplishing something for our clients, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So one of the things I did enjoy about real estate I wanted to bring to real estate was when we were posted here the first time, our experience finding a place wasn't great. It wasn't the agent's fault. It's just the way it was at the time. We didn't know much about Kingston, the area, places to live, places to avoid, schools, and so on like that. So when I started doing this, I wanted to make sure that, especially military, because you may be coming from another part of the country, not even familiar with Kingston. So when people get here, they're on their house hunting trip. They have a week to find a home. So they're under immense pressure to find places. They have to move fast. They need to know about the area. They need to know areas to avoid, what school, if they want to go to a Catholic school system. Just so many questions. I try to make it for a military moves that it's very quick and very easy for them. And so far I think I've been doing a pretty good job. I've met some great people in the military, and actually one of the people I helped buy a home for here is now a great family friend, and they just live down the road because they bought a house in the same neighborhood I live in.
Nice. Yeah, it is definitely a community builder for sure. Most of my clients that I've worked with, I now do consider friends. I mean, you go through such a intimate time with them, and the emotions are all over the place, from excitement to frustration to celebration and all of it. And you're in their life. And sometimes when it's over, I feel a little sad because you actually feel like you were dating or something when you're in that frantic house hunting period and we see each other every day and look at 3 houses and you're together and you grab ice cream and coffee and do the things. And then they buy and you're like, I miss you.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. Part of it I also find is that you kind of take on some of the stress because they're buying a home.
Right.
It's a big purchase, are they going to be in the right area? So you take on some of that stress. So, I kind of live that stress with them. Now it's obviously different because they're the ones that are buying the home and making those final decisions, but helping them out. You feel the pressure as well. But at the end of it, yeah, you may not see them as often as you were, but you do get to see them purchase their home and end up in the area that they want and start their new life or their new career in Kingston.
Yeah, and that is definitely satisfying to know you were a part of that. And I do feel bonded with those people, and any good agent does stay in touch with them. So you do hear from me on a fairly regular basis if you're part of my community, and I'm sure the same for your client base, because it just becomes something fun, right?
Yeah.
So that is all well and good. I certainly appreciate that. And I know you give people like a really good experience because I know you care. And I know you've been through lots of moves yourself because of your military background and whatnot. How many children do you have?
I've got 4. As I mentioned earlier, I was married previously for 15 years. Marriages don't always work out. Fortunately, my ex-wife or my first wife, we're still, good friends. We talk at, birthdays, Christmases,
Nice.
Send presents for the Christmas. When dealing with their kids, we put aside our differences, that could have been a problem and decided that, we've got 2 kids. We're going to see each other for the rest of their lives. We're going to have graduations, marriages, births. So, it's for the benefit of the kids or better for the kids. So we did it that way. And it's worked out great. My wife now, she has 2 kids from her previous marriage. When we mashed our families together about 8 or 9 years ago, and it's been unbelievably successful. Our children
she's freaking awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Heather. Yeah, she's quite the
She's
character.
awesome.
And I'd have to say that because of her is why our family, our kids are meshed together so well is because of her. Just her personality, her attitude, her care for the family. And she took Isaac, Rachel, my kids, and she treats them as her own.
Yeah.
And her 2 kids, Emily and Kate, amazing kids, love them lots. And, I consider them my own. I know that I'm not their biological father, but I'm definitely a dad, and I feel that I have 2 more kids. So
that's
been
a
great.
blessing. That's
excellent.
I mean, that's your encore as well in that regard. With
I guess, kind of a second phase to that.
Yeah. Act 2 of your family life.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, though. Because that's where all the good stuff happens, which is what I like to say.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for Rob?
Let's see. So, want to keep doing real estate. It's definitely interesting. My wife and I, Heather and I, we're looking at starting a franchise here in Kingston the next bit. We hope to get that up and running. Just the normal hurdles you have to go through, financing, location, especially location, because you want to have a good exposure and make it successful. So hopefully next year sometime we'll be opening a business here. So I guess it'll be Act 3, I guess, in this case.
Wow. All right.
But yeah, so I'm interested in getting that started, and so is Heather, so it should be fun.
Yeah, that is exciting. I love your energy and your enthusiasm. You're young. I mean, you're 51. You shared that already. You look like a 35-year-old dude.
That's why I like you, Shari.
So you're healthy and you're spry and you take good care of yourself. And I forget that you're 51, which isn't old by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. But I see, I've never heard you say, I want to slow down, I want to put my feet up. And I'm sure you could. I know that you served the military for a very long time, so you deserve to take the fruits of that labor. But no, that's not enough for Rob. I'm still going to go kill it for the rest of my life as well and do amazing, crazy things with your wife. And you guys will do amazing, crazy things. And I hope to be a part of them all. So it's fun to watch. And it is really a pleasure to know you as well.
Yeah, it's been great. And like I said, for you, being a real estate agent also helped influence the brokerage that I chose. And so far, it's been batting 1,000 like you. It's been great. Everyone here is awesome.
Yeah, it's a good place and it's a good life.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think maybe just that, just because you're getting older or one career is starting to wind down doesn't mean that it's done. There's all kinds of opportunity. You just have to be willing to take a look at it and go for it and enjoy it. And, you do only have one life that you get to live, so you might as well make the most of it while you're here.
Absolutely. Try it all. And if one thing doesn't work, just try something else. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing your time and your story with us, Rob, today. I really appreciate it. To all our listeners, thank you for listening, and everyone have a great day.